Hi, everyone. I am Coach Buford, and I coach the women's golf team here at East Carolina. I am just starting my second year here at ECU. I have worked both at private and public institutions before now, and so I am in my first position as a head coach. I've been working as an assistant previously, and so have experienced a lot of different ways that academic institutions operate. I have certainly worked with elite and developing level of golf talent at my previous institutions. And so I first will talk a little bit about ECU, and then like the previous coach did, we'll kind of just give my 2 cents and a little bit of advice on the recruiting process. And so ECU is a large Division I public university. We're located in Greenville, North Carolina, which is, as in our name, on the eastern part of the North Carolina, on the state of North Carolina. And we compete in the American Athletic Conference, which is a conference that we're extremely proud of, one that we really love to compete in, not only because it is one of the best in the country, but it also gets national attention. And over the last 2 weeks, we've had our football teams playing on ESPN and ESPN2. And so for you parents that might be looking to view your student athletes as they are far away from home in Canada, our conference does a great job of doing national exposure and filming not just football, but our basketball games have been on ESPN, and a number of other sports get noted through other national media outlets as well. And so the conference that we compete in just does a great job of highlighting our students, both on TV and like different media outlets. And it's just something that we're grateful for, that we do get to have our student athletes being recognized at the national and international level. We offer 14 varsity sports. They include baseball, men's and women's basketball, cross country, American football, men's and women's golf, women's lacrosse, women's soccer, softball, track and field, and volleyball. So I'm sorry we don't offer ice hockey, which I know is probably the preferred sport of Canada, but we do offer soccer and basketball, which I know are also really high level sports and ones that are played often there. Some things that we support staff that we offer here at ECU: each team is given individual support on almost every avenue of like the college experience. And so our academic coordinator only works with 3 other teams. And so it's great to have her being able to give our athletes individual attention. Our strength and conditioning coach, he is just with us and 1 other team, and that's pretty consistent across the board. Each staff member that is in a support role is given like 2 to 4 teams just to make sure that they're able to give individualized attention. And so it's not just one academic coordinator that's for all 14 teams. You know, they're able to meet with our freshmen on a consistent weekly basis, and they're able to check in and have manageable loads so that they're not just going like a mile wide and an inch deep. Like they're really going a mile deep with each of our student athletes that are here, which we're really grateful for. Some things that our academic support system highlights: we do study hall for our freshman student athletes 4 days a week. And as the Richmond coach noted, like you're going to be in there a lot more than the hours that you have homework, but to designate that time that's separate so that you learn how to manage your time even away from like the structured schedule that you've had your whole life. It just helps to really impress upon the support that's there and the different resources that you can utilize with our academic support system. But it also just gives you a little bit more structure to know, like, if I can designate 2 hours a day for my academic work, or even less than that, you're going to be pretty successful as you go along in your career. You'll notice, like, as you get older and your class sizes get smaller and more specialized to your degree or towards the program that you're really interested in, you're going to be spending more time maybe on like a collective body of your psychology work or collective business work instead of like studying a bunch of different entry-level classes your first year. And so they just do a really great job that first year, exposing you to all the help that's there. If you need a tutor, they're able to help with coordinating a tutor. If you need extra support for like a lab or some hands-on work, any makeup stuff, they're always there to help with that. Another thing that they help is with our scheduling. And so you can imagine that for a team of 80 players like football or like 15 players like basketball, coordinating schedules can be really complicated. And so what they do is they work with all three, like coaching staff, student athletes, and their department to schedule out, making sure that between the strength and conditioning times, between practice times, between competition, that they can schedule in classes where you miss the fewest amount of classes for traveling or working around everybody's schedule. They want to make sure that we create a cohesive timeline to make sure that all of our students are in class at the same time, so we can have all our students at practice at the same time. Oh, great. It looks like Kathy is maybe pulling up our presentation, which is great. Campus life, and I'm sure Kathy will talk a little bit about this, but we have 25,000 students. So when I say we're a large public university, we are a large public university. But one thing that you'll realize, especially being a student, is that, or a student athlete, is like you have kind of this smaller niche of students that are like-minded. They're pursuing the same things that you are. And so every first semester for our student athletes, they're in a like 1 hour, twice a week class where they're with other student athletes, connecting with our career development staff, with our life skills development group. So it's not necessarily an academic class per se, but it's making sure that the transition from high school to college is running smoothly, and that if you do have issues, or if you're working through learning how to time manage better, if you're learning how to public speak for the first time, those kinds of skills are being developed in that class amongst your other student athletes. And so you're with your peers, and you really get closely connected with those students that are all coming in at the same time that you are. Outside of athletics, we've got over 500 student organizations on campus. And so if there is anything that you're passionate about, chances are you're going to find students here that are also equally passionate about it. We have like French clubs for those of you French speaking Canadians. I'm not sure if we have like a maple lovers organization, but maybe you can start it. It would be certainly one that I would attend. But anything that you're passionate about, anything that you really are interested in or want to learn about, there's a lot of different clubs and organizations on campus that can help you out with that. And one thing, like I keep saying 25,000 students, like that is a big number, and some people who are really introverted like I am might be overwhelmed thinking that's too big. But one unique thing that ECU only requires you to live on campus your first year. And so if you can do it to the football stadium slide, just to put that up there for one more point that I didn't make in the beginning. But one thing that is really great also about being in the American Conference is that our schools cover 8 states. And so being that you guys are international students coming from Canada into the US, like I can assume that you all are travel enthusiasts. And so coming to ECU, you will get to see a multitude of the country in your 4 years at ECU. Like our team, as the golf team, we kind of operate under a little bit different regular season schedule, but we've traveled as far as Puerto Rico and Minnesota and to Texas, before Florida, very frequently. And so competing at a conference that is, again, on the national level, you really get to see a lot of the country that some more like regional programs or smaller programs maybe don't have the opportunity to do that too. And so let's see, we can maybe click down to the next slide. As you guys have heard, and I hope that you're continuing to hear from those close to you, like doing as much research as possible is so, so important. Knowing kind of like where your schools are that you're getting excited about, or that you are sending emails out to, it's really important to kind of have goals in mind, and to be excited about good schools that are maybe in like your reach category, but also being very realistic about who you're talking to. And when we talk to different agencies and different scholarship companies, like we say like 50 schools is kind of a good starting point, and to have 10 programs that you're like, okay, if I work like so hard, if I really, this is my dream school, this is where I want to play, have 10 schools there, and then have maybe like 25 to 30 schools that you're like, if I work really hard, I believe that I can make an impact here. And then have 10 schools where you're like, okay, if I were to start college right now, these are the programs that I could play for, just so you kind of have a realistic view of, a progression of it. If I get better, I can go here, or if I maybe don't work as hard, or if I just kind of stay where I'm at, I could still play here. I'm sure you guys hear June 15th a lot, but that is the date where coaches can return communication to you. And so I would encourage you to send some communication before then. Make sure that it is very clear. Make sure that, like, if you're sending in scores or videos, that they're accessible, because as you guys heard earlier, if it's like a web page where I have to click through 3 different tabs and type in a passcode just to get some data, like that's very time consuming, and I would rather just see it right on the email, like in a table or in an attachment. Like, easy and clear ways to promote yourself are the best way to get recognized, the best way to really be noticed by schools. And what's important too, once you do start like back and forth communication with a coach, is to know what's important to you. And so whether it's that you're an outdoor sport like we are in golf, and being able to play all year round, unlike you maybe get to do in Canada, like that's something that's really important. If it's school size, if it's having other international student athletes on the team, like just make sure that you know what's important to you, so that when that communication does happen, you have good questions to ask, or you can tell them that this is what I'm looking for. As Kathy kind of touched on financial aid, we are an equivalency sport. Golf is an equivalency sport, but there are sports on the men's side, like football and basketball, that are head count sports. On the women's side, basketball, tennis, and volleyball, I think, are the head count female sports. And so know that, as he mentioned, like not every school is going to be able to give out a full scholarship if they are in that equivalency sport, but there's a lot of ways that you can supplement that offer with academic aid, with like program-based aid. Like sometimes different majors or different programs will offer financial assistance within that degree. And so like just because you're not getting a full scholarship offer doesn't mean that you can't find additional aid to help get it really close to that like 39,000 that Kathy was talking about. But it's also different, like sport to sport. Like we in golf, we can sometimes give out full scholarships if like a player is really worth it. And also know that like you can apply for financial aid at some institutions without like making the decision to go there. And so if that is something that's really important to you, look at what is offered at the institution and go ahead and apply to those before you like send in your enrollment deposit or your like letter of admission. Because if that is something that is going to be a deal breaker, like you can see kind of, I might get 19,000 here, or I might get 25,000 here. And so getting to go through that with the 2 programs you're interested in, or however many you're kind of narrowing it down to, you can do that. One thing that our athletic department has committed to and has been so helpful for our international students here is that they cover the international health insurance. As she kind of, or as Kathy noted in the breakdown, that's about a $3,000 cost. And so not every institution does that. This ECU is the first place that I've been at that is committed to covering that. But that is something that's really important, because not all insurance companies will cross like international boundaries, and ECU I think requires having a US-based insurance policy. And so make sure that you like ask those questions when you are going through the process about international student insurance, because most schools do require that. We're in Division I. That was kind of a comment to talk about our division, and And we are so fortunate to compete in that with the highest competitive athletes in the country. But there's also like really great Division II programs, especially in women's golf. Like the Florida schools that compete in Division II are equally as competitive as kind of their ranking peers amongst the Southeast. And so if you aren't maybe getting a lot of attention from D1 programs, don't be discouraged by a Division II program just because maybe it's Division II. Like a Division II program can still be very competitive, and it might be more important to you to get like full playing time instead of sitting on the bench at a Division I program. And so again, just knowing what's important for you is going to, I think, help make the college decision-making process a little bit clearer, a little bit more like helpful throughout. Prefer like a little more secluded, quieter environment. Like you're allowed after that first year to move off campus into a single apartment or into a house with your other teammates. And so that's a nice kind of option for those of you that like might feel a little overwhelmed, like living on campus all 4 years. You can choose to live off campus, and that kind of changes the dynamic from being on campus and amongst all these students to being a little bit more like in your own environment.